Georgia and Alabama get ready for another modern day clash of the Titans. Steen Leggy, Ryan Curley. Ryan, a lot of discussion about injuries today. A lot of discussion about Lamar Jackson, Tim Tebow. All sorts of things came up with Kirby today. Let's start with the injuries. Kirby didn't say a lot necessarily. It certainly looks like Brock Bowers is going to play. But this has been a banged up Georgia team the whole season. I think they got right for a while there, and that was not the case against Georgia Tech. Do you think that they'll be right when they play Alabama on Saturday night?
What is right?
Yeah, it's a good question. They will
What
not
is
have
right?
Jamon Dumas Johnson. That would be shocking to me.
I would be surprised if Jamon Dumas Johnson's out there on Saturday. And there was a reporter that pushed Kirby on that.
Which reporter was that?
Asking him
Chip?
again, and just week to week, that's all he would say.
Well, who asked?
Chip.
Yeah, he should have. It's. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't. I mean, listen. The job as a reporter is not to be a pom pom waver. That's not the job. It's to figure out what's going on, ask those questions, and it's Kirby doesn't owe the reporters anything, and they don't owe him anything either. So it's just what it is. Although it is a relationship, I do think that if you saw what I saw on the sideline at Tennessee, and then again on the sideline at Mark Rick Field, I just he looks too far away from playing this weekend. With the caveat, talking about Jamon Dumas Johnson, with the caveat that if they wanted to wrap it up, I mean that's a different ball game. But I think if him gripping something was kind of would be a challenge. But Jalen Milroe was a discussion a lot of this today, and I think Jalen Milroe really performed against Auburn and LSU on the ground, and about scared people half to death. All you have to do is watch him run and throw, or run to be scared half to death of what he can do. And Kirby had a fair amount to say about that today too.
Yeah, it was. I feel like a lot of the questions were about Jalen Milroe today, and
Yep.
Kirby gave him his praise. I mean, high praise. Comparing someone to Lamar Jackson is high praise. Saying no offense to Tim Tebow, but this guy's different is really, really high praise. And look, I watched a lot of Jalen Milroe last night, and yeah, he's going to be really, really difficult for Georgia to stop, especially since we've seen that they can be susceptible to good design quarterback runs. You think about with Auburn, whether it was Peyton Thorne or Robbie Ashford, they were effective with the read options, the counters, the stretch runs, just getting the quarterback involved and using that as a disguise and just part of their game plan straight up. And I don't know that there's anyone in the country that's better at that right now than Jalen Milroe, and that's what this Georgia defense is going to have to face. Because look, Jalen Milroe is way more athletic than Haynes King, and King was effective against Georgia, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I would say exceptionally good in the in the red zone
Yeah.
against the Dogs. Running and well, maybe not and throwing it,
Well,
but
he had two rushing touchdowns in the
yeah.
red zone, and Jalen Milroe is going to be able to do that. I mean,
Well,
he's going to be way more difficult to stop from an athletic standpoint. Running
well,
around, I mean, he really is a legit weapon back there. He is a quarterback, obviously. He's not your traditional quarterback that's just going to sit there in the pocket and pick you apart. But whether it's by design or by scramble, he's dangerous when he crosses that line of scrimmage.
yeah. But let me give some context here. So, Jalen Milroe has run the ball, and this includes sacks. He's been sacked. And so this is what I mean by this, Ryan. The sack part of it throws things off. So he's run for 126 times. 34 of those have been sacks. Okay, so a fair amount of his running yardage have been sacks. So in two games, he has accumulated a pile. He has accumulated 262 of his 429 total yards, so more than half have come in two games, which were the LSU game rushing and 155 yards, and against Auburn. In his other appearances, he's gone 88 for 167 yards. Now, I did not go to Georgia Tech, but I did visit there Saturday night, and I can tell you that that's fewer than 2 yards a carry. So it could be that there's a lot going on with Jalen Milroe that you'd better stop, or you're going to be sorry, or he just burned up two teams I don't know. This guy was pretty good at running the ball too. I've only got a few of these left, so take advantage of this. I've been talking about this quite a bit. Double Dawgs signed by our buddy Stetson Bennett. He was just in Athens the other day. The link is down below. Ryan, your comments on my statement. What is a fact there about that? I mean, can you take away 2 games, or what do you make of that?
No, I mean it's part of the body of work. I
Right.
mean it's part of what he can do. It's the same way where you look at Alabama struggling with, I don't know, in Arkansas or Texas A&M. You have to also look at Georgia struggling with teams. It's you have to be fair in looking at the whole picture. And part of the picture is that Milroe can do that. LSU's defense is not good, and
No.
that was his best rushing day when you have the 4 touchdowns like that. But he torched them on the ground. Is he gonna do that and run for? I don't remember the yardage, but he had the 4 touchdowns against LSU. He had over 100 yards.
Yeah, it
Is he going to
was.
explode like that against Georgia? That'd be pretty surprising, just because of how gifted the team is, how well coached the team is, and all of that added together. Is the threat of him going to sink in the defense? Are they going to be able to? That's part of why they can beat you over the top so often. That's why so many of their highlights are just over the top passes to Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond and all those guys, is because of the threat of the run game between the backs and Milroe.
The other challenge for Alabama coming into this game is, when your starting running back is questionable coming into it. Here's the thing. I listen. By the way, and I've said this in another video. I really, it's hard not to like Jalen Milroe. Just in not knowing him, obviously, but the way he's handled all of this and handled himself. But the other thing that's not happening for Jalen Milroe lately is multiple sacks in games. I mean, when you look at the Texas game, 5, Ole Miss 4, Mississippi State 4, Texas A&M 6, Arkansas 5, Tennessee 4. Now, not all sacks are sacks, right? Kirby would probably love that statement. Not all passes are passes; they're runs sometimes. But in this case, it really is accurate. I mean, a negative carry for any quarterback is a sack, and naturally, if you're going to run the ball as often as he has this season, you're going to get some sacks. But some of that's just the way that it was too. But he's not taking as many sacks lately. Now, Alabama's schedule's not been as bad, Ryan. I mean, when you open up with the way that they did, he Middle Tennessee and Texas, he played in those 2 games and was really good against Middle Tennessee, and obviously had a really rough night against Texas. Did not play against South Florida, but his beginning of the season were the name brands. I mean, it was Texas, Mississippi. Then they played State, A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, and had Kentucky. They slaughtered Kentucky, and then so they went Kentucky, Chattanooga, Auburn. That's basically been the close of their season. It's not been as challenging a schedule, but Alabama's played a lot better.
They are playing better. They're playing better the last few weeks, and does the way that they had to survive against Auburn matter that much? I think it matters a little bit
It
that
mattered that they won.
it matters that they won, and it matters that they found a way to survive. And as fluky as the last couple minutes as that was, and it was when you begin with the muff punt, um, you can't ignore how well they played the few weeks prior to that, just starting to explode. Because it's the same thing with Georgia heading
Yeah.
into the Georgia Tech game, playing playing really well when it matters the most. These two teams have a lot of momentum heading into this matchup. It really is huge. This is a huge. I feel like it's almost being understated a little bit. This is for a trip to the playoff.
This is what.
Like,
Say that again about the
this is
playoff.
for a trip to the college football playoff.
It's certainly,
The
it's
notion that Georgia's a lock to get in no matter what is, I don't know.
so. Let me just say this real quick. You know, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but there are scenarios where Alabama wins and they don't go. I think that is. I don't think that will happen. So I think that people saying that are listen. Alabama's better than Florida State. That's clear to me. So if Alabama wins and they do not go to the college football playoff, there's something really wrong. I don't want to hear about Texas. That's fine. They certainly beat Alabama, but this is supposed to be about for such a long time, Ryan. College football has only been about the well, it used to be the 11 games, and if you lost, it was inexcusable and all this stuff. It's much more like NCAA basketball tournament now. What do you really look like the whole time? And Alabama has looked better than Texas globally speaking this season, but I'm not going to get into that fight. You were talking about how you got to win or get in. I mean, I'm not so sure that's the case for Georgia at all. I don't know that. First, we're assuming Florida State and Texas both win. I don't think that's a certainty, but
I don't think so either, but I think it's
probable.
I think Louisville could totally beat Florida
Well,
State.
yeah, and the thing about that line, Ryan, I'll throw it right back to you. It's a 2.5 point line. That thing was, I mean, a few days ago it was 5 or 6.
In favor of.
Well, Florida State's still favored, but I mean, I wouldn't be real happy about that if I were a Florida State fan, seeing that line just
That
dribble
backup
away.
quarterback did not play well the other night.
No,
He looked good.
no. But let me get back to the Georgia thing. First of all, I think Georgia's going to win this game. I think they're going to cover in this game. So I am not being bashful about anything. Like I'm not. But listen, when it comes down to it, the college football playoff should put the best 4 teams in. They should not put the 4 most deserving teams. If that 4 includes Ohio State, then Ohio State should be in it. I would have to study a little bit more. I don't think Ohio State's a top 4 team in the grand scheme of things, but I'm not going to die on that hill. Georgia is. So I think there will be a lot of pressure internally, externally, whatever you want to call it, to say we're going to leave out a team that has multiple top 10 wins over 3 ranked teams, and has won X amount of championships in a row. Now, last year and the season before that, Ryan, should not count, but we know how this works. It does count. We saw last year 2 teams get into the college football playoff that not only either didn't win their conference championship, but they didn't even play in their conference championship in Texas Christian and Ohio State. So there are no rules here. It's just supposed to be, I think, 4 teams. I'm not going to define it in any way, but it really should be the best 4 teams, and there's no doubt that Georgia's one of those 4. So when there's this discussion about is Georgia in already, the betting the odds makers are acting like they are, but or at least they're indicating that.
Yeah, I mean, the odds do say that. I just, I don't trust the committee. I don't trust the committee. And if Georgia does lose, I can see it just being, Florida State is a 13-0 conference champion, or Texas and Alabama. Alabama would have to be in over Georgia.
I would think Alabama would be in, but I
the notion that there's no SEC team, because there's a guarantee now that there's at least one 12-win SEC team. The notion that team wouldn't get in is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, that's just not. Listen, the winner of this game, first of all, will be in there. I would say if the winner of this game is not in the college football playoff, you're talking about the conference champion of this. This conference's champion has won the national championship 3 times since the year 2019, and the time that didn't happen, another team from the league won it, which was Georgia in 2021. So in 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 years in a row, that league has produced a champion, national champion, whether they won the league or not. So it would be, I would say, astronomically disingenuous. It's also the best league, by the way, Ryan. I was looking at some stuff today. This notion that the Pac-12 is better than the SEC, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, no, look, those were September takes.
Well, we're still, but we live, I would take the SEC's top 6, which would be Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, Missouri, and Tennessee, those 6, and put them against whoever else is 6. Who's the top 6 in the Big 12? The ACC is a joke, right? Who's the top 6 in the Big 12? Who's the top 6 in the Big 10? Iowa is one of your top 4 teams.
Iowa's 3 or 4.
Are you going to say Iowa's better than Penn State? Penn State beat them. Now, whether that matters or not, I don't know. But, who in the SEC would not, of that top 6, who would not be favored against Iowa? I mean,
I think
Alabama, Georgia.
everyone would be favored
Yeah,
over.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you start talking. I mean, so it's the toughest league. So Pac-12 does at the top. It's very good. UW, Oregon, and then but it kind of falls off precipitously. Utah, 8-4. They are not what they used to be.
Arizona's the third best team in the
Yes,
Pac-12.
Arizona is the third best, and then Oregon State, and
Yeah.
then probably Utah at 5. Now we know Utah's better than the Gators, who are like the SEC's 10th best team.
They're not in the top half.
Yeah, they're not in the top half. So I don't know, but like the notion that this game, which Kirby Smart loves this game. I mean, a lot, and I understand his affection for the game. He's played in this game. Excuse me, he's coached in this game a lot, and it has defined his career. And this Saturday will define more of his career, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, as much as he'll avoid talking about it and avoid the question and the topic, I mean, he versus Nick Saban is a big point of discussion, especially when we're talking about legacy and Kirby climbing that ladder and climbing that ladder. These moments in this game matters for that because they hadn't been able to beat them in this stadium and in this game. They beat Alabama in the national championship, but in this setting, they haven't gotten it done yet. It is a different animal.
Yeah, and they've played them, to be clear, they played them in the SEC Championship only twice. But as most of the people watching this remember, in Mercedes-Benz, they
Mm-hmm.
remember, of course, Alabama and Tua with a huge throw to win the national championship in a very cold day in 2018, but to win the 2017 national championship. So, yeah, I don't, the venue is something that people this is like a thing, I guess, but Georgia's won games in there since they've played Alabama. They've beaten Oregon there. They've beaten LSU there. They've beaten Ohio State there. So, Alabama is probably better than than one of those teams and name brand, which would be Oregon. But those are three big time name brand schools right now. And there's nothing wrong with Georgia Mercedes-Benz. They've won a lot of big games there. Actually, they just have lost 3 times to Alabama, which matters none this week. I mean, Jalen Hurts is not walking through that door, and Georgia's just a better team as far as I'm concerned. Any other notions from Kirby today or the players that jumped out to you?
It's all business. It's all business, but
Yeah,
they get how big this game is. I mean, they don't need to explain to them how important it is, especially not Cedric Van Pran and Kamar Lassiter, who are the two we heard from today. Look, though, man, I mean, Georgia was a better team 2 years ago.
In Atlanta?
Yeah, in Atlanta. Georgia's the better team 2 years ago. So anything can happen in this game, I understand. And just when you have Nick Saban on the other sideline, it's.
Well, here's what I would.
I'm almost at a loss for words for that, but
Nick is exceptional. But I would say the undoing for Georgia against Alabama specifically in Atlanta. So 12, 17, 18, and 21. The undoing has been the quarterback. A.J. McCarron with the long bomb in 12. In 17, the miracle throw. In 18, just the switch from Tua to Jalen Hurts. In 21, the way that Bryce Young played. Now, if Jalen Milroe plays that well, then Alabama will deserve to win. They will probably go on to win the national championship. Just if he plays like that, like those guys did, they're going to win the national championship. If he doesn't, they're going to lose probably. And it's relatively that simple. You play a turnover-free game. I think Georgia's in good shape, and Alabama's got to play a turnover-free game too, Ryan. They can't go out there and kick the ball around a bunch either.
Yeah, that goes both ways. I agree with what you were just saying though about Milroe. It's a really good Milroe game. That means Alabama is either really competitive or winning the game.
Yep.
But if your quarterback doesn't play well against Georgia, you're just not winning the game.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. You have to have good quarterback play to beat a defense that's usually that disciplined. Obviously there have been some games this year where, and the real problem is because we're comparing Georgia to this unrealistic standard. That's the real issue with Georgia, and that in a game where they don't just absolutely dominate, there's all these question marks. It's been a really good defense all
Oh, you're
year.
talking about
And
Tech?
I'm talking about Tech. I'm talking, but just the whole body of
I
work
just
in
don't.
general.
I mean,
That's the real issue with Georgia. So.
well, follow us for more. The link is down below to everything we talked about. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.